Welcome back to Tug of Heart. Today is special. I told you we had something really cool. Lori had been given some thought to, and sure enough, she did not fail us. We're going to chat today a little bit about generosity. Now, generosity, we're going to break it up into a couple of different topics. That are going to go something like this. One, generosity beyond writing a check. Generosity from the standpoint of giving time. Generosity that has in mind the recipient's currency. We should always consider the recipient's currency. And giving based on need rather than our own personal surplus. So I think if we can get through those four things, I think we're going to be in good shape. Not really sure I know enough about this, and that may be because I'm not generous enough. But we are going to unpack this. Lori, hi.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm a little bit frightened, a little bit timid, because when you said, I said, oh my goodness. And, at first it seemed like, wow, this is a really, really good topic. And then I thought to myself, why am I having so much difficulty? Maybe I'm not generous. So talk to us, Lori. I broke this down into four topics that made sense to me.
I like that. I actually like those a lot.
It may not be exactly what you were going for, but I think that sometimes let's start from the fourth one and work our way backwards. I think sometimes I'm far more likely to be generous, if I can use that word, and I'm using it, I'll use it sparingly when I talk about myself, but I'm far more likely to be generous if I've got three of something.
That's true.
Or
no need for the one you have.
Exactly. If I've replaced it with a better one, I'll let the other one go. Exactly.
That's very human nature. The number one thing, in my opinion, that everybody needs to increase in their life is generosity. And it's a confusing time because a lot of mistakes can be made about generosity because we have a sense of, if we have a high intensity to legalize what we consider generosity, we feel generous. But we're talking about personal self-responsibility for generosity, not to be confused with, well, I think everybody should give. And the reason I mention that is less political and more about not saying, if I had more, I'll give more. The people that have more should give more. But what do we have right now and how do we give it? We're starting with your number 4, which you said was need versus surplus. And I think that's a decent place to start, actually. I actually like that you gave us a good order and then reversed it. The thing is, giving is easy, but to do it to the right extent, to direct it correctly, to keep that intention and aim kind of pure, that's not as easy for everyone. And I might even say for anyone. We could all use some improvement. Now, when you say need versus surplus, you've mentioned this to me before, so I'm just going to borrow your thought and then ask you your thoughts about your borrowed thought here. Need versus surplus, giving somebody what they need as opposed to what's convenient for you, what you have extra of, what doesn't hurt, what you don't miss. And I think that's important, because when you can give based on what somebody in front of you needs, the buy gift, if you want to call it that, to me, is that you see that person and you see the context of their situation accurately. To be seen is a tremendous gift to receive. So in addition to whatever you need, we all need and deserve and even have a right to, in our human dignity, to be seen accurately, not it's summer and is the wrong time to maybe give somebody a blanket, to keep it appropriate, right?
Okay. I think the I'm probably a little bit unique in this. We talked early on when you invited me to Tug of Heart to join you, and we talked about being grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And I am guilty. I am guilty of weighing, or putting somebody's need. I question it. And this is embarrassing. This is tough to talk about, but I question the authenticity of the need based on their not so much gratitude or acknowledgement or anything like that. But I get when I say give based on a recipient's needs rather than your personal surplus, I know what it takes for me to live. And I'm just going to come out and say it, Lori. There's a little bit of a sting when I give somebody something that I would enjoy, but it's not good enough.
That's true. That's true.
So if I'm comfortable whipping up some ramen, I'm going to just take, and somebody is without, and I'm like, here, this is easy. You want me to get you some hot water? And like, I'm not eating that. I shouldn't, maybe that's all they've had for an entire year. So they're tired of it, but I don't look at it that way, And so I have a hard time. I mean, embarrassingly so, following through on number 4, I mean, I guess I'm trying to dictate what their needs are. Their needs are food in any way that it arrives. If it's nutritional, however it gets there, whatever the package looks like, I'm satisfying that need. You told me a long time ago, somebody can request help, but they cannot dictate the manner in which it arrives. They can't write the prescription that I'm going to provide. Right. Only I can do that.
Right.
So when somebody needs something and I'm like, listen, let me figure this out. Let me go get you a loaf of bread. Let me get you some lunch meat and some sliced cheese. And they're like, I was really hoping for some chicken tenders, Then I get like I got to be honest. And maybe I'm not truly being generous, because truly being generous is giving them maybe not just what they need, but what they want.
Okay. To that, I would say that if we take a look at just generosity objectively, not personalizing it, this person is not giving enough. I decide you're generous, I'm not. On its own, generosity of the heart is contextual. And that goes back to where I was saying it depends on how you're directing it, what your aim is, what your intention is. You cannot speak or project for somebody else what their true need is versus their desire, and any unalignment or unbalance they have. I would say that's not your responsibility. But what you can say is a good measure for your own generosity, our generosity, I should not say you, because it's a common thing what you're saying. And I think when people don't say that, maybe their starting point is to have an honest look at themselves, because I think to be human is to be human, flawed and all. So it becomes a difference of stinting is the opposite of generosity. Okay. And that's when you economize or hold back based on wanting to hold on to something that you could part with to help another, versus saying, I can part with this, and they refuse. That is their free will, and you accept. It doesn't lessen the act of generosity. There's a story, I think, of, I think it's Mother Teresa, where she had gone to the poorest of poor villages with just like a cup, if that, half a cup, whatever is dramatic to you in mind, of rice, to a very poor household, to a woman with children. And she gave her, the cup or half cup of rice flour, whatever it was. And the lady said, one moment, and ran. She poured half into a thing and ran off and came back. And she asked her, what did you do? Where is it? She said, oh, I gave half to my neighbor. They're also very poor. Could she begrudge that? Or did generosity beget generosity? And so that's one extreme. Another is to say you take a cup to somebody and they're like, I don't want rice. I'm hungry for, something with some fat on it. Again, it depends on the context of your heart. And when we're being generous, we're saying, truly, I am doing what, to the best of my ability and understanding, would be helpful. Whether or not people accept it, Leroy, there's times, probably you've tried to help me, other people, and in fact, it's more enraging to us than what you anticipated. And I apologize now for that. I mean, I'm sure it happens like that in life. What about when we just try to give somebody advice authentically and they are so angry? When we can see clearly, I think you mentioned this. Well, I know numbers. I can tell you what's going wrong, and I could help you fix it quickly. They don't want that. Then that's for them to decide what they were truly looking for.
So then moving backwards through the list of 4, number 3 will become number 2, and that is recipient-based currency considered. So I hear what you're saying. I like what you're saying, but I mean, what I get, there's a, what are we supposed to feel? Are we supposed to give and just be like, okay, there, I did my duty? Is it supposed to sting a little? Or are we giving if there's not some material deficit in the act? You know what I mean? If it doesn't cause us a little bit of pain, consideration, concern, have we really given to the best of our ability? Or I mean, is it just based on our own, what we feel? I mean, charity shouldn't make us feel this way, should it? True charity?
Well, there's a couple different things going on there. First of all, there's charity and our relationship with giving and duty. And then there's our relationship with stuff. And then you mentioned the recipient's currency. Sometimes the currency that we think we need for help is not what we need to solve a problem. Okay. When we're in need. I know for a fact you've seen this many times. I want help and I want a specific kind of help, but you can see my, and we're not talking about a clear, homeless situation or somebody with this, they're ill because they have not been fed. But a lot of times where we exchange charity in life and generosities is just on different levels of humanity. It need not be this extreme poverty, and we're only giving to those in extreme poverty. As you move up and away from poverty, I do think there can be the waters can get a little bit muddier because their perception of what they need may be very different than what we perceive them to need. Also, a lot of that has to do with socialization, effective. Now, I'm going to jump ahead to where you said our duty. It is our duty to be generous, I believe. But I also think when we give, and with repetition of giving, we should reach a point where no, we don't give and say, I've satisfied that, because it becomes more of like a second nature where that becomes the norm. And what we can do when you have moved away from like an obvious and clear need in front of you, you can offer what you can do. Well, I am able to do this if it would help. It's open-ended. That's it.
I remember, I remember one time, Lori, I'm a single guy, and through a lot of probably luck, good fortune, and blessings, I had a home. I had, I had transportation. I had more than I needed, for sure. And so I went down to church. What church doesn't matter. And I said, I'd like to host a family for Thanksgiving. I said, I'm going to put out a spread. They said, what does your household look like? I said, it's just me. I got plenty of room. I can host up to 5 people, a family of 5. I said, I got this whole vision in my head. I'm going to get some nice little stuff for the kids to play with while I'm kind of going through the meal prep. And they said, it's very, very nice. We already have methods for giving these types of things. Can we encourage you just to make a financial contribution to our pantry? I'm like, no, I'm farmer. I said, understand that I want to give, but I said, it's important to me too. I would like to have the fellowship, if you will, the breaking of bread, the real Thanksgiving experience. Yeah, probably we kind of like what we do, really want to do it this way. Fast forward, I was just at a point in my life where I was like, I need to give more. I wanted to be more generous. So Christmas came. I said, listen, I'd like to have a family for Christmas. Very similar situation, maybe a different church. And I said, I'd like to kind of see what their wish list is. And, maybe I can put up a tree, and still a single guy, I'm living by myself, and I probably needed it as much as they did. And I was willing to, put a meal on the table along with some Christmas presents to have that sense of belonging. And they said, well, we don't really encourage that. Okay. Different congregation completely. They said, but we do have lists that the children make of things that they would like. And I'm like, I got this. I said, that would make me feel really good. I'm thinking to myself, it's winter time. Money's tight. Probably the utility bills are high. I'm thinking of all these things. And so they gave me a couple of lists that I could choose from. And as I'm reading through the list, I'm sorry, I became absolutely not generous in an instant, because the list contained things like, I want a PS3, I want, and these are kids that were, I got very judgmental in the generosity process, and it made me uncomfortable, because I thought it would be like, oh man, I want my mom to have a new set of tires, or I would love a new winter coat, or gosh, what I would give to have some gloves, but no, these things were like super extravagant. Like, I understand they're children, but it hit me in a certain way that, or for instance, our utility bill is such and such. If we could just get, for Christmas, if we could get our utility bill paid for 3 months, well, and then it would say, well, how much was the utility bill? The utility bill is like $650 a month. And I'm like, man, I'm conservative. I put on a jacket. I don't spend $650 a month, So I started weighing it out, which made me super uncomfortable in my generosity, because it was beyond what I enjoy, if that makes any sense.
No, I get it. I'm going to tell you a couple things. First off, I'm going to tell you, good for you for having struggle, the right, good or bad, because you at least stepped into that space of consideration of what it means, right and wrong, start sorting through it. And to return is more, because the thing is, each act of giving is at the same time that we're in its truest sense, Leroy, I want you to understand this. We develop ourselves and who we're most meant to be while we are sorting through our own generosity, our attachment to things. And I think it makes me very happy that you said this, because you probably have a better chance of landing somewhere accurate than a person, because if we can't first see ourselves for who we are, I always think we would not know where we're going, what we're working with. Now, having said that, it can be disheartening to try to exercise charity. Expectation is something different than you thought. And the other thing is, if very much in your heart to perform a certain act for whatever reason, listen, we say tug of heart for a reason. So something is tugging at your heart to have a type of fellowship, get together to recreate a comfortable situation that you want somebody to experience. I always say that you have to be loyal to your heart, what idea has expressed itself, but also willing to compromise. Now, if for an offer to be made, and if somebody says we don't need or want that, or that's way, I think very politely and with like mutual respect, you say, okay, it sounds like we have something different in mind. And then what you're looking for, if it is there, right? And you don't want to bypass, if somebody really was in need and you bypass it because you've run into or encountered a type of salesperson instead of the person in need, just because the first place you went wasn't the right place. The other thing is that we would want to give to people without the expectation that we have any directive power on the outcome of that giving once something has left our hand. So once you let go of it, it's time to just let go and just accept wherever everything lands. That's how it happens. Now, again, these are ideals. But I think that brings us to number 2 and number 1. And I'm going to kind of lump these together and then let you break them up if you want. And that's that you wanted to go beyond the check. And I do think that's important, because there's a massive need to me in charity to normalize humanity in a way that you become equal with somebody in generosity. For a while, to sit and break bread together is massive. All we see in the Bible, really, books, any books that happen to be as old, when they would get together to eat, they would put on the garments. You hear of the wedding garments, and that was where they all just dressed similar and became equal in that moment. And I think you were trying to recreate that. The second is time. Time, to me, is precious than money. Money can often be easier to $1 versus sitting and sharing a sandwich with somebody. I don't know if I've even answered your question, except to say that I think that entering into that struggle means somebody is on their way.
I like that. I do. And
There's no
There,
shame in sorting things out, right?
there's first of all, we have a little bit of an audio mishap because there's
Yeah,
you're
we'll
clipping in and
see
out.
after how it goes.
Yeah, so but I kind of get what you're saying. I heard 95% of what you said. Probably missed the 5% that was important. um, but I think somewhere there is maybe I just wasn't like really inventorying the situation as well as I could have.
You're young at that time.
Yeah, no, I was already very, very mature. I think I was like 21. Okay, that was a joke.
Yeah, you're not mature now. So
So true. Okay, so
in 30 years ago,
I so of everything that you said, it's like I think one of the most important things that we all need, that I need, is friendship and
Yes.
fellowship.
Yes.
So I like the idea of give, but give in a way that is, again, I can't judge or anything, that is humanizing to the giver as well as the recipient. So I like the idea of sharing a meal with somebody because that's humanizing for us. It makes us we're making a friend, and the cover charge for making a friend is the cost of a meal. We might be the recipient of that, of the real giving is asking somebody for their time. We can't judge what they're doing, but we're asking them for their time to eat a meal with us. We'll pay for it. You know what I mean? Kind of it's a way of
right. Yeah.
Probably giving.
And I
to
think
yourself.
the bottom line is
It's probably giving to ourselves. So with that, that takes us to number 3, which is actually number 2, which is above all else, give time, because time, there is no retrieving. We can make more money. We can buy more groceries. We could give away cars. But the truth is time. That's a whole different level.
That's right.
When you sit and listen, when you hear a story, when you tell a story, you're giving your time. And that is, this is, as Dad used to say, this ain't no dress rehearsal. This is, we get one pass at this.
Yes.
So time.
It's everything. Time is. Say, I'm going to add one other thing that I think it's an act of effort for so many things in life, but I think for this, it's a big one. The easiest way to know, like, am I giving right? Am I not giving right? As I offer, as I feel I'm judging, or versus being prudent and careful. So don't give away something that somebody truly made, somebody that does not. The simplest way is keep your ego out of it. If somebody turns their nose at something you want, so you'll know if your ego's in it, because you feel like bitter or rejected or just a negative feeling. You kind of had a loose feeling about it, and if they're like, not today, and you can just lightly say, okay, all right, then your ego tied up in that transaction, right? There's kind of that's an early indicator, and with time you learn more about it. And if you begrudge it, you had a little ego in it. You think you have anything, you have any right or footing for expectation in return, a little bit of ego is in it. And we all do it. We're lying if we say we don't. It is a continuous effort to get better at it and be more in the heart with giving. And because it's want to give for the sake of giving. And the other thing that I wanted to say about ego real quick, is that when we give to address the needs of a person. And a lot of times we mistake being unselfish with being the opposite of generous. And it's not necessarily, because if we begin giving as an exercise to become this unselfish person, and that's the measure where and I have fallen into it, which is why where we're giving and giving, and we kind of like that feeling of like I'm a selfish person. And so you can cross the line where giving becomes more that you're developing this kind of persona. That's also kind of selfish in a way at some point. And that means there was some ego, because you're shaping how you're seen, even if it's how you see yourself. When you withdraw that, I think giving becomes just exactly what it is. It takes years I feel like I'm pretty a generous, and I don't got it right. I don't got it right. Did you already said that? I ain't got it right. But it's a life.
Ain't none of us got it right.
Right. That's enough. Then we have enough information in how we should treat do this. Be generous with ourselves and don't beat ourselves up. We don't have it right. And needs are always changing. And what we're told nowadays that needs are may not line up with everything we either hold truly in ourselves or that in the way that we grew up. So it like things are even shifting. What we're told is generous, what we're told is a spirit of giving, and what we accept as generosity. We still have to face ourselves, and we need to live in our heart through all that. It's not easy.
You and I collaborated, and it was this very synergetic collaboration not so long ago. We were talking about people say, well, I got to wait until I have a little house with the extra bedroom and I've got a few extra bucks in the bank, and then we're going to have children. I'm going to wait until I have, this in order, that in order. And I think this is the first thing that came to my head when you were talking about generosity. And the truth is, we can actually give the most priceless, we can be generous with the most priceless commodity, our time, today. And I think that's very, it really kind of hits you in the feels,
Yeah.
like we're going to wait until we have a few more bucks. It's not about bucks. Your most prized possession is your time, and yet you can give that, the most valuable of all your possessions. You can give that right now.
Right. And you don't want to wait till you're like, because that this comes back to that hesitancy and how I have to like mechanical action, because then I'm waiting for some kind of ideal future that may or may not exist to actually become generous. Why? How about next time you have something sharp to say to somebody in the grocery store, you just bite your tongue in generosity? How about the next time somebody is moving slower than you want, chill out in generosity. It does not have to be when I have X amount of dollars, I'm going to give what I say this a person ought to give. Now, is that through taxation or giving or whatever? Never mind that. What can you do now? If you see somebody outside trying to lift something heavy, can you take a second? I know you do this all the time. You see somebody stuck in the road. Do you drive around, or do you just stop? And you don't need a whole lot extra to lay your two hands on a bump, help push, right?
I can show you generous people, without a doubt. I can identify them, and when ever get to the point where I'm feeling mildly low and I need to just see the beauty of generosity, try and merge onto the interstate.
Done.
You will identify real quick generous people.
And I can tell if I'm generous because it's an ungenerous merger. And I'm like, and I think something like jackass, idiot. I have a quick assessment of my generosity too. Because sometimes you could practice it solo in your car. You think that, and then you could just be like, aw, maybe they're in a hurry. They didn't deserve that. Generous. They'll never know it. But you kind of reshaped your heart a little, redirect it better, and you might fall somewhere in the healthy category of the spectrum when it comes to, the tougher acts of generosity. You're in that good generosity fitness level from repeating it, whether people are seeing it or not. And that's the other thing. Don't wait to be to have eyes generous, because then that again comes back to you're being generous with how you're seen, and you're being generous with who you are, less than who's receiving.
Wow, that was I told everybody I was excited about this, and you put it really, really well. You've got a good handle on this.
Sometimes
you really do. Yeah, and not most things, but this, you got this, Deb.
That was generous.
Lori, thank you for meeting up today. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Strong Island. It's a good day to be generous.
Yeah, we can all do it. You know what? Let's keep up with get an extra cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Poured coffee. So, and you know what I have been doing when I can't, like, if I'm like, I don't know that I want to go to the coffee place because now I have this kind of unwritten rule that we'll get coffee, stop and make coffee, and just I'll make an extra one and just go with two so you can get.
We're about to check out. One of these days, we're going to have to talk a little bit about this. We have come so far in forward thinking that now it's almost scary sometimes to be generous because people don't take it the same way. You can't just whip up pancakes and hand them out on the side of the road. You hold the
there's laws.
I held the door for somebody the other day.
Uh-huh.
And I even said, chivalry's not dead. It's over at my house. And the lady looked at me and she said, "What, you don't think I can open a door by myself?"
Oh my gosh.
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Back in the day, they don't do it as much now. They have bigger fish to fry, but I got stopped by a cop Subway in New York for sharing my ice cream with a homeless woman. It happened. I mean,
that's a different topic. Lori, the generosity topic you brought to the table is on point, and let's keep giving it. And you know what? If you get a ticket, that will validate your generosity. If you get a ticket for sharing a sandwich, God bless you.
I just told him shame on you, and he stopped. He knew.
Yeah. Okay, Lori, listen.
All right.
Can't wait for the next topic, and I'll see you back at the podcast.
Okay.
Adios.
Farewell.